From the Chicago Sun-Times newsroom, I'm Natash Korecki, and this is Off Message, our weekly political talk show. Joining me today is Kate Grossman, our editorial writer, Dan Mihalopoulos, watchdog reporter, and our Springfield bureau chief, Dave McKinney. This week, Bruce Rauner has been all over the news and all over the place on the minimum wage issue. Let's take a moment and just look at some of the highlights.
We're hurting our economy by having a minimum wage above the national. We've got to move back to the national.
I'm okay with our increasing overall the minimum wage around the nation. And I want Illinois' wage to be the same at the minimum so that we're competitive.
I am adamantly against raising the minimum wage.
Dave, so which one is the real Bruce Rauner?
You know what? I think Bruce Rauner has had a bad week. I think that's the most charitable way to put it. And I think the bigger issue for him now, not so much his position on minimum wage. It's, if he says something, can we believe him? That's the problem he has here now.
And the fact that he's not been vetted and he's new, how much do you think that plays into this whole scenario right now?
Well, certainly if he had come out of his rose garden, as one of our colleagues described it, at an earlier stage. Here's a guy who hasn't held office, hasn't run for office, and he's acting like the media can't come near him, the public can't come near him. He has his spokespeople handling everything, but he was talking to some people, and he was saying one thing to certain people, and then once that statement comes out to the broader public, suddenly he changes his position. But wait, there was a third position, and so he clearly is making some rookie mistakes.
How much damage has this done to Rauner going forward? We're a couple months from the primary right now. People are now paying attention.
I think he's done damage on two fronts. So first, he makes a lot of people, hardworking, low-income people, really mad. So that's damage number one. And then he changes his position and says, no, in fact, I really want to raise the minimum wage. And then now nobody believes him, right? So this is a big trust factor. Who is Bruce Rauner? And so going forward, the question is, it's January. The primary is only 2 months away, basically. Can he recover? I think he probably can. I mean, the guy has more money than God. He'll get back on the airwaves and back on the radio and back in his ads and get back probably in his ivory tower and his rose garden or whatever it is. And he probably can recover because he has such an apparatus behind him.
This could be defining for him. And he's really playing right into the hands of an issue that Governor Quinn wants to use as his bread and butter in re-election. And it also plays into how Governor Quinn, and as well as his Republican rivals, have been trying to paint Rauner all along as an aloof elitist who doesn't really care about the 99% of the electorate.
This is very reminiscent of what we saw in Mitt Romney's 47% video. And I think the storyline that Rauner has got to be especially careful of is that, here's a guy who took in $53 million in income in 2012. He owns a stake in 3 professional franchises, has 9 homes. He can't be perceived as somebody who is insensitive to poor people.
We're going to switch topics a little bit here and move to Al Sanchez. He's completed his 30-month federal sentence, but he has not completed his 2-year probation, and he already wants to run for public office. What do you think are his chances of actually getting on the ballot? There's a challenge right now.
Well, he's getting some of that band back together, the band that helped launch the Hispanic Democratic Organization on behalf of Mayor Daley and his other allies.
Is that band still around?
There are certain remnants of it, let's put it that way, that have helped him get on the ballot. How powerful can they be? I don't know. I mean, it's a diverse district that used to be represented by Bill Beavers. Toni Preckwinkle does not want him to win, although we've seen that her coattails are not that long in some of the campaigns since she became county board president.
What was the biggest argument you heard against his getting slated?
I think the most emotional argument that I heard was from the daughter of a city worker who was crushed between a garbage truck and a telephone pole. She was a laborer on the back of the garbage truck, and the driver who got her job through the Hispanic Democratic Organization, who was hired by Al Sanchez, although she was only minimally qualified and was inexperienced, had been rejected, in fact, in other job applications before that. And the daughter felt that Al Sanchez is shirking blame for what he did, that there really are consequences to hiring your friends if they're not qualified to do the job.
Why does Sanchez have the opportunity to run for this particular office?
So there's a quirk in the state election code. If you're a convicted felon, you can't run for municipal office, but you can run for county boards. The larger context here is, do we want convicted felons serving as public officials. And I would argue, no. I'm all for rehabilitation, giving people a second chance. But if you violated the public trust, I don't think you get a second chance.
Okay, well, with that, let's not forget the quote of the week. Dave, why don't we start with you?
I defer to Governor Pat Quinn on this one. He talked about how, all 4 Republicans don't want to raise the minimum wage, he said, like he does. And so he says, quote, "These guys have all the compassion of C. Montgomery Burns."
Excellent.
Dan, what do you got for us?
My quote of the week is from Al Sanchez. When I asked him about that accident, he said that it happens in streets and sanitation. People want to make a big deal of it.
Kate?
Well, my quote comes from the Garden State, where my favorite political story of the week is unfolding, where Governor Chris Christie is being grilled for snarling traffic on the GW Bridge. It came out this week that this whole group of people who were working for him did this as political retribution. And one of the text messages was, "The time for some traffic problems in Fort Lee." They're like twisting their mustaches.
Back to Bruce Rauner, a day after, while he was still trying to do damage control over this whole minimum wage thing, he went back to his old staple, which is attacking government union bosses. He says they are bribing the politician to give them unaffordable pensions, free health care, and outrageous pay and benefits. And the unions are going nuts, and I think this is only going to get nastier from here. With that, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.